Mom, we need your bedroom. Pack your things. My daughter Michelle stood in the doorway of what had been my sanctuary for the past 2 years, arms crossed, face cold as winter steel. Behind her, my son-in-law Derek leaned against the hall frame, scrolling through his phone like my entire world wasn't collapsing in that moment. I was folding laundry on my bed, clean white sheets that smelled like lavender softener. The afternoon sun came through the lace curtains I'd sewn myself, casting patterns across the worn quilt my mother had made 50 years ago. My hands stopped mid-fold. "What did you say?" My voice came out softer than I intended. Michelle sighed, the kind of sigh that said she'd been rehearsing this conversation. "We need this room, Mom. Derek's setting up a home office, and this is the only space with good natural light." She gestured vaguely at the window. "You understand, right?" I looked at her, really looked at her. This was the same little girl I'd rocked to sleep every night after her father died. The same child I'd worked 3 jobs to put through college, sewing wedding dresses until my fingers bled, waitressing until my feet swelled, cleaning houses on weekends. I'd given her everything. "Where am I supposed to go?" I asked quietly. Derek finally looked up from his phone. "There's that senior living place on Maple Street. We looked into it. They have openings." "Senior living?" The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "You mean a nursing home?" I said. "It's not a nursing home, Mom." Michelle's voice carried that sharp edge of impatience. "It's assisted living. They have activities, meals included, nurses on staff. You'd probably be happier there anyway. With people your age." People my age. I was 68, not 90. I still drove, still cooked, still remembered every birthday, every anniversary, every moment that mattered. But to them, I was already gone, already invisible. And if I don't want to go? The question escaped before I could stop it. Derek straightened, and for the first time, I saw something ugly in his eyes. "Then maybe you should find your own place. This is our house now, remember? We've been generous letting you stay this long." Their house. The house I'd helped them buy with the $80,000 from selling my apartment. The apartment I'd owned outright, paid for with 30 years of needle and thread. They'd promised it was an investment, that we'd all live here together, that I'd always have a home. Michelle wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mom, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. We have to think about our future, about starting a family. We need the space." Something cracked inside my chest. Not my heart. That had broken long ago. This was different. This was the sound of the last thread snapping. The thread that had kept me silent, kept me small, kept me grateful for scraps of affection. "How long do I have?" I asked. "We'd like you out by next weekend," Derek said. "Gives you a week to pack." 7 days. 68 years of life reduced to 7 days' notice. Michelle finally showed something like guilt. "Mom, we're not trying to be cruel. It's just practical. You're getting older. What if something happens and we're not here? At the senior place, there's medical staff. It's safer." Safer. Translation, more convenient for them. I looked down at the half-folded sheet in my hands, at my wedding ring that I still wore even though Thomas had been gone 15 years, at the silver scars on my fingertips from decades of sewing. These hands had held my daughter when she was born. These hands had worked until they bled to give her everything she ever wanted. And now, those same hands had to pack my life into boxes. "All right," I said quietly. "I'll be gone by Friday." Michelle's face showed relief. "Thank you, Mom. You're being really understanding about this." They left, just walked out of my room, their room now, and I heard them laughing in the hallway, about paint colors for Derek's office, maybe a standing desk, maybe built-in shelves. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked around. This room held 2 years of my life. The bookshelf Derek had complained about, the small TV that was too old and ugly for the living room, the dresser that had been my mother's, photos on the nightstand, Michelle as a baby, her wedding day, Thomas and me on our 20th anniversary. But what they didn't know, what nobody knew, was that this room also held secrets. I walked to the closet, pushed aside the winter coats, and pulled out a worn leather briefcase I hadn't opened in 2 years. Inside were documents they'd never seen. Bank statements, investment portfolios, property deeds, and one business card, edges soft with age, that I'd kept for 20 years. I picked up my phone with trembling fingers and dialed a number I'd memorized, but never called. It rang 3 times. Sterling and Associates, how may I direct your call? James Sterling, please, I said. My voice didn't shake anymore. Tell him Margaret Chen is calling. There was a pause. One moment, Mrs. Chen. Classical music played. I stared at my reflection in the dresser mirror. Gray hair pulled back in a bun, soft wrinkles around my eyes, simple floral dress. I looked like someone's grandmother, someone harmless, someone disposable. They had no idea who I really was. The music stopped. Margaret, James Sterling's voice came through, warm and surprised. My God, it's been years. Are you all right? I need your help, James, I said quietly. It's time. That night, I couldn't sleep. The moonlight coming through my window felt different now, like it was illuminating a stage where I'd been performing the wrong role. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Michelle and Derek's television through the thin walls, their laughter, their comfortable, careless voices. I thought about the day Thomas died. Heart attack at 53, sudden as lightning. One moment he was reading the newspaper at breakfast, the next he was gone. The funeral was small. We didn't have much money then, or so I'd let everyone believe. I'd worn a simple black dress I'd sewn myself. Michelle had cried on my shoulder, 17 years old, and terrified her mother would fall apart. But I didn't fall apart. I couldn't afford to. What Michelle didn't know was that the day before Thomas died, he'd made me promise something. Margaret, he'd said, holding my hand across our kitchen table. If anything happens to me, promise you won't tell Michelle about the money. Not yet. Let her build her own life first. Let her learn the value of working for something. Thomas, that's not fair to her. Promise me. His grip tightened. I've seen what money does to people. I don't want it to ruin our daughter. When she's older, when she's established, when she truly needs it, then you tell her. But not before. I'd promised, and Thomas, brilliant, careful Thomas, had made sure I'd be taken care of. Just not in any way that was visible. The leather briefcase in my closet held the proof. 20 years of careful investments, properties bought under different names, stocks that had multiplied. A business partnership with James Sterling that had turned Thomas's modest inheritance into something substantial. The current total, according to the last statement I'd checked, $4.7 million. I was a millionaire living in a back bedroom, being evicted by the daughter I'd sacrificed everything for. The irony tasted bitter. I got out of bed and opened the briefcase again, spreading the documents across my quilt. Property deeds to 3 apartment buildings in the city. Investment portfolios that generated more monthly income than Derek made in a year. And there, at the bottom, was the document I'd been avoiding for 2 years. The deed to this house. The house Michelle and Derek thought was theirs. My hands trembled as I read the words I'd memorized. Property purchased by Chen Family Trust. Held in the name of Margaret Louise Chen, primary beneficiary. Secondary interest holders. Michelle Ann Preston, 25% equity upon reaching age 35 or upon dissolution of primary holder's residence claim. I'd bought this house, with my money, in my name. When Michelle and Derek had come to me 3 years ago, desperate because Derek's startup had failed and they'd lost their savings, I hadn't hesitated. I sold my apartment, publicly, made a show of it. Let them think they were getting everything I had. Let them believe they were rescuing me by letting me move in. The truth was different. I'd bought this house through the trust. Put their names on the mortgage to help Derek's credit. Let them make the payments from Derek's new job, giving them pride and purpose. But the actual ownership? That was always mine. Thomas had taught me well. Protect yourself quietly. Help generously but wisely. And never, ever let people mistake kindness for weakness. I'd broken that last rule. I'd been too kind, too quiet, too willing to make myself small to keep peace in this house. I'd thought that humility would earn respect, that sacrifice would earn love. Instead, it had earned me an eviction notice. I gathered the documents and put them back in the briefcase, but kept out one folder. Inside was James Sterling's card and a letter Thomas had written me before he died. I'd read it 1,000 times, but tonight the words felt different. My dearest Margaret, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I can't be there to protect you anymore. But I've done what I can. The money, the investments, the properties, they're all yours. Use them wisely. Use them to live the life you deserve. And if anyone, even Michelle, ever makes you feel small or worthless, remember, you are neither. You are the strongest woman I've ever known. You survived loss. You built a life from nothing. You raised our daughter alone. Don't let anyone diminish that, not even family. Love, Thomas. Tears fell onto the paper, blurring the ink I'd already cried over countless times. I carefully folded it and put it back. Tomorrow, James Sterling would come. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, I let myself grieve. Not for the daughter who'd forgotten her mother's worth. Not for the son-in-law who'd never seen it. I grieved for the version of myself I'd been pretending to be. The small, grateful, harmless old woman who was so easy to discard. That woman died tonight. In the morning, someone new would wake up. The next day moved like honey. Slow, thick, sweet with anticipation. I woke at dawn, made my bed with hospital corners the way Thomas had taught me, and dressed carefully. Not in my usual floral house dress, but in the navy blue suit I'd kept in the back of the closet. The one I wore to business meetings with James, to property signings, to the life Michelle knew nothing about. I looked at myself in the mirror. Hair pinned up, minimal makeup, pearl earrings Thomas had given me on our 20th anniversary. I looked like someone who belonged in a boardroom, not a back bedroom. Perfect. Michelle and Derek were still asleep when I went downstairs. I made coffee in silence, the machine's gurgle the only sound in the dark kitchen. Through the window, the sun was just starting to paint the sky pink and gold. My phone buzzed. A text from James. On my way, arriving at 9 a.m. Are you ready? I typed back, yes. That single word carried the weight of 2 years' worth of silence finally breaking. I sat at the kitchen table, sipping my coffee slowly, savoring these last moments of invisibility. Soon, Michelle would wake up. She'd come downstairs in her silk robe, the expensive one Derek bought her for Christmas. She'd barely acknowledge me as she made her breakfast smoothie, probably mentioned something about packing, about the movers they'd already scheduled for me. The coffee was bitter. I hadn't added sugar. At 7:30, right on schedule, I heard footsteps above. The master bedroom? The room that had been mine and Thomas's before I'd given it up. Before I'd made myself small enough to fit in their lives. Michelle came down wearing exactly what I'd predicted. Silk robe, hair tousled, scrolling through her phone. She didn't look at me. "Morning, Mom. Did you start packing yet?" "Good morning, Michelle." I kept my voice level. "I'm having coffee. Would you like some?" "No, I'm doing a cleanse this week." She opened the refrigerator, examining the contents like they'd personally offended her. "God, we need to go shopping. There's nothing healthy in here." The refrigerator I'd stocked. The groceries I'd paid for, quietly, without ever mentioning it. Just one more invisible contribution to this household. "Michelle, can we talk?" I set down my cup. She sighed, that particular sigh that said I was interrupting something important. "Mom, if this is about the bedroom thing again..." "It's not." I folded my hands on the table. "I just want to understand something. Do you remember when you were 6 and you wanted that dollhouse for Christmas?" She looked confused. "What? Why are you bringing that up?" "Humor me." She shrugged, still focused on her phone. "Vaguely. What about it?" "It cost $200. I was working at the garment factory then, making $6 an hour. Do you know how many hours I had to work for that dollhouse?" "Mom, I don't..." 33 hours, plus overtime. I worked extra shifts for 3 weeks because you'd seen it in the store window, and your eyes lit up like stars. The memory was so clear. Her small hand in mine, pressing against the glass. "I remember you telling your teacher that Santa Claus must really love you to bring such a beautiful present." Michelle finally looked at me. "Why are you talking about this?" "Because I want you to remember something. Every dollhouse, every piano lesson, every college application fee, every single thing you ever wanted. I made it happen. Not because I had money, because I had love." Her expression shifted, something like discomfort. "I know you sacrificed, Mom. I've always known that." "Do you?" I stood up, taking my coffee cup to the sink. "Because right now, asking me to leave, it feels like maybe you've forgotten." "That's not fair." Her voice rose. "We're not kicking you out. We need space, Mom. We're trying to start our lives together. Is that so wrong?" I turned to face her. "No, Michelle. It's not wrong to want your own space. What's wrong is how you're doing it. The coldness, the 7-day deadline, the fact that you never once asked what I wanted, how I felt, whether I had anywhere to go. You can go to that senior community. They have..." "I know what they have. Bingo nights and medications and people waiting to die." My voice was steel. "I'm 68, not ancient. I still have life in me. But you see me as already gone, don't you? Just an obligation taking up space." Derek's voice came from the stairway. "Margaret, that's not fair." I hadn't heard him come down. He stood there in his expensive athleisure wear, the kind that costs more than I used to make in a month. "Isn't it?" I asked. "Tell me, Derek, when's the last time you asked how I was doing? Not about dinner or groceries or whether I'd paid the utility bill I thought you didn't know I'd been covering. When's the last time you saw me as a person instead of a convenient housekeeper?" His face reddened. "We don't think of you as a housekeeper." "No? Who does the laundry? Who cooks dinner 5 nights a week? Who cleans the bathroom you both use? Who pays the water bill, the electric bill, the internet bill?" Silence. That's what I thought. I walked past them toward the stairs. "I'll be in my room, packing, like you asked." In my room, I closed the door and leaned against it, heart pounding. That had felt good, too good, like lancing a wound that had been festering for 2 years. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I pulled out the leather briefcase and spread everything across the bed. Documents, bank statements, property deeds. All the proof of who I really was, hidden in plain sight in a room they couldn't wait to empty. My phone rang. James Sterling. Margaret, I'm 15 minutes away. How are you holding up? I'm fine, James. I looked at the documents. Better than fine, actually. I just had a conversation I should have had 2 years ago. Good, that's good. He paused. Are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. I'm sure. All right, I'll park on the street. When I ring the bell, I want you to answer the door. Let them see you with me. Let them wonder. What should I bring? Everything in that briefcase, especially the house deed. After we hung up, I carefully organized all the documents back into the briefcase. My hands were steady. Strange how calm I felt. For 2 years I'd been holding my breath, making myself small, staying quiet. Now, I was finally exhaling. A knock at my door. Mom? Michelle's voice, softer now. Can I come in? It's open. She entered, and for a moment I saw guilt in her eyes. Just a flash, but it was there. I didn't mean to sound harsh downstairs. This is hard for me too. I sat on the bed, hands folded over the briefcase. Is it? Yes. You're my mother. Of course it's hard. She sat beside me, careful not to wrinkle her robe. But Mom, you have to understand. Derek and I are building our future. We need space to grow as a couple. And having you here, it's what? She struggled for words. It's like being watched all the time, judged. We can't just be ourselves. Judged? The word hung between us. Michelle, when have I ever judged you? You don't have to say it. I can feel it. The way you look at Derek sometimes. The way you sigh when we order takeout instead of cooking. The way you... She stopped. The way I what? The way you act like you're doing us a favor by being here. Like we owe you something. The words hit like a slap. I act like you owe me? Yes. Her voice was firmer now. It's always there. This unspoken debt. Everything you sacrificed. Everything you gave up. Like we're supposed to spend our whole lives repaying you. I stared at her. This stranger with my daughter's face. I never asked you to repay me, Michelle. I only asked you to see me. I do see you, Mom. I see someone who can't let go, who can't let me be an adult, who needs to be needed. The doorbell rang. We both froze. Who's that? Michelle asked. I stood, picking up the briefcase. That's for me. For you? Mom, who? I walked past her down the stairs. Derek was already at the door, opening it. Can I help you? I heard him say. Then I reached the bottom of the stairs, and I saw James Sterling standing in the doorway. He was exactly as I remembered. Tall, silver-haired, wearing an immaculate charcoal suit. Behind him was a black Mercedes, gleaming in the morning sun. Good morning, James said, his voice carrying authority. I'm here for Mrs. Chen. Derek looked confused. Mrs. Chen? Margaret, I said, coming to stand beside Derek. That's me. James, thank you for coming. Michelle appeared at the top of the stairs. Mom, who is this? James extended his hand to Derek. James Sterling. I'm Mrs. Chen's attorney and financial advisor. We have some business to attend to this morning. Derek shook his hand mechanically, then turned to me. Margaret, what's going on? I looked at my daughter on the stairs, at my son-in-law at the door, at 2 years of silence about to break open. What's going on? I said quietly. Is that we need to have a conversation about this house, about whose name is actually on the deed, about who's been paying most of the bills, about who exactly has been living here as a favor to whom. Michelle's face went white. What are you talking about? I opened the briefcase and pulled out a document. I'm talking about the fact that this house belongs to the Chen Family Trust, which I control. Which means, legally speaking, I'm not the one who needs to pack. The silence that followed was profound. James Sterling smiled. Perhaps we should all sit down and have that conversation Mrs. Chen mentioned. I think there are quite a few things that need to be clarified. Derek looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Michelle sat down on the stairs, her silk robe suddenly looking less elegant and more like costume. And me? I felt lighter than I had in years. We sat in the living room, the same room where I'd spent countless evenings watching television quietly in the corner, trying not to disturb them. Now I sat in the center of the couch, James Sterling in the armchair to my right, briefcase open on the coffee table between us. Michelle and Derek perched on the love seat opposite, looking like defendants awaiting a verdict. The morning light through the windows felt different now, sharper, more honest. I don't understand, Michelle said, her voice small. You said you sold your apartment. You said you needed a place to live. You said... I said a lot of things, I interrupted gently. Most of them true, some of them incomplete. James pulled out the first document. Let's start with the basics. 3 years ago, when you and Derek approached your mother about housing, you were in financial distress. Derek's company had failed. Your savings were gone. Your credit was damaged. Is that correct? Derek nodded stiffly. And Mrs. Chen agreed to help you purchase a home. She contributed $80,000 toward the down payment and closing costs. You believed this represented her entire savings from selling her apartment, correct? Michelle's eyes filled with tears. Yes. Mom, we didn't want to take your money. You insisted. I did insist, I said. Because you're my daughter, because I wanted to help. But Michelle, I never told you that was all I had. James continued, pulling out bank statements. In reality, Mrs. Chen's apartment sold for $245,000. The $80,000 she gave you represented 1/3 of the proceeds. The remaining funds were reinvested through our firm. Derek leaned forward. Wait. So you had money this whole time? And you let you think I was poor? I asked. Yes, I did. Because your father made me promise something before he died. He made me promise not to tell Michelle about our financial situation until she'd built her own life, until she'd learned the value of working for what she had. Michelle wiped her eyes. Dad knew about money? Your father was brilliant with money, James said. He started investing when you were a baby. Small amounts at first, but he had an instinct for it. Over 25 years, he turned modest savings into substantial wealth. How substantial? Derek's voice was tight. I met his eyes. The current value of my portfolio, including properties and investments, is approximately $4.7 million. The number hung in the air like smoke. Michelle made a sound between a gasp and a sob. 4 million? Your mother, James continued, owns 3 apartment buildings in the city. She has stock portfolios in multiple sectors. She has rental income of approximately $18,000 per month. And most relevantly to this conversation, she owns this house. Derek stood up abruptly. That's impossible. We made the down payment. Our names are on the mortgage. Your names are on the mortgage, yes, James said patiently. Your mother insisted on that to help rebuild your credit. But the actual deed, the ownership title, is held by the Chen Family Trust, with Margaret as the primary beneficiary and sole decision-maker. He slid the deed across the table. Derek grabbed it, scanning frantically. I watched the color drain from his face as he found the relevant passage. This is fraud, he stammered. It's not fraud, James said firmly. It's estate planning. Everything was done legally and with full disclosure to the title company. The mortgage company knew the house was held in trust. They approved it. You simply never asked to see the actual deed. Michelle was crying openly now. Mom, why? Why didn't you tell us? Because, I said softly, I wanted to see who you'd become without money influencing you. I wanted to know if you'd love me for who I was, not what I had. And I wanted to protect myself. Your father taught me that. He saw what money did to families, how it changed people, how children started seeing parents as bank accounts instead of human beings. But we never, Michelle started. Never what? Never used me? Never took advantage? My voice was still gentle, but there was steel underneath. Michelle, who pays the utility bills in this house? She blinked. I thought you said you'd cover them since you weren't paying rent. Who does the grocery shopping? The cooking? The cleaning? The laundry? I offered because I wanted to contribute, because this is my home too. But did either of you ever offer to help? Ever thank me? Ever see me as anything other than convenient free labor? Derek sat down heavily. We did thank you. We appreciated. You appreciate your housekeeper, Derek. You don't evict your mother with 7 days' notice and a suggestion that she go rot in a nursing home. The words hit him visibly. Michelle buried her face in her hands. I want to be clear, I said, looking at both of them. I'm not angry that you wanted your own space. I understand that. Young couples need privacy. They need room to grow. I would have supported that. What I'm angry about is how you treated me. Like I was worthless. Like I was a burden. Like everything I'd done for this family meant nothing. That's not true, Michelle sobbed. We love you. Do you? Or do you love the version of me that's useful? That cooks and cleans and stays quiet and doesn't ask for respect? James cleared his throat gently. Perhaps we should discuss practical matters. Mrs. Chen, you said you wanted to propose a solution? I nodded, wiping my own eyes. Crying wouldn't help now. Here's what's going to happen. This house belongs to me. Legally, I could ask you both to leave. But I'm not going to do that. Relief flooded Michelle's face. Instead, I continued, we're going to establish some new terms. First, Derek, you're going to start paying actual rent. Market rate for a 3-bedroom house in this neighborhood is about $3,000 per month. You'll pay that on time starting next month. His mouth opened, closed. Second, we're going to split utilities and groceries evenly. No more me quietly covering things. We're adults. We split costs. Third, household chores will be divided equally. We'll make a schedule. I'm not your maid. And fourth, I looked at Michelle. You're going to start coming to therapy with me. Both of us. We need to repair what's broken between us, and we need professional help to do it. She nodded, still crying. If you can't agree to these terms, I said calmly, then yes, you'll need to find somewhere else to live. And I'll sell this house and buy something that's just mine. But I'd rather not do that. I'd rather fix this. Because despite everything, you're still my daughter, Michelle. And I still love you. The room was quiet except for Michelle's soft crying. Derek finally spoke. $3,000 a month. We can't afford that. Not with my salary and the car payments and... Then you'll need to make adjustments, I said. Sell one of the cars. Cut back on the restaurants and the designer clothes. Budget like adults. Like I did when I was raising your wife on $6 an hour. James began packing the documents. I'll draw up a formal rental agreement, something that protects everyone. Mrs. Chen will remain the owner, but you'll have tenant rights. Fair? Derek looked at Michelle. She looked at him. Some wordless communication passed between them. We need to talk, Derek said. Alone. Of course. I stood. James and I will wait outside. You have 30 minutes to decide. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of someone's freshly cut grass. James and I stood by his Mercedes, and I felt the neighbor's curtains twitching, curious eyes watching the expensive car, the well-dressed lawyer, the drama unfolding in what they probably thought was just another quiet suburban home. "You did well in there," James said, leaning against the hood. "Thomas would be proud." The mention of Thomas made my throat tight. "Would he? I kept this secret for so long, maybe too long." "You kept a promise. That's honorable." James pulled out his phone, checking the time. 27 minutes left. What do you think they'll decide?" "I honestly don't know." I watched a bird hop across the lawn. Part of me hopes they'll agree. Part of me almost hopes they won't. Why? Because if they agree, I have to follow through. I have to live here, set boundaries, stick to them. That's harder than just leaving. James smiled. "You've never taken the easy path, Margaret. Why start now?" A car pulled into the driveway next door. Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor of 2 years, got out with grocery bags. She saw us, did a double take at the Mercedes, and waved uncertainly. "Good morning, Margaret. Everything all right?" "Everything's fine, Dorothy. Just having a business meeting." "Oh." Her eyes took in James's suit, my professional attire. "I didn't know you, well, lovely morning, isn't it?" She scurried inside. Within minutes, I knew the neighborhood text chain would be buzzing. Who was the lawyer? Was Margaret in trouble? Was she suing someone? "You're smiling," James observed. "I'm thinking about how different I look to people now. 5 minutes of being seen with you, and suddenly, I'm not just Michelle's elderly mother. I'm someone with lawyers and business meetings." "You always were. People just didn't bother to look." We stood in comfortable silence. James and I had known each other for 20 years, ever since Thomas had asked him to help set up the trust. In all that time, he'd never questioned my choice to live quietly, to hide my wealth. He'd simply managed it, protected it, and waited for the day I might need it. That day had come. "What if Derek refuses?" I asked quietly. "What if he convinces Michelle that I'm being unfair, that I'm manipulating them? Then you'll know definitively that your daughter chose a man over her mother, and you'll have to decide if you can live with that." "I don't know if I can." "Margaret," he turned to face me. "You survived losing your husband. You survived 30 years of brutal work. You survived raising a child alone in a city that didn't make it easy. You'll survive this too." The front door opened. Michelle stood there, face blotchy from crying, still in that silk robe. She waved us in. "We need to talk more," she said. James and I exchanged glances and headed back inside. They sat close together now, Derek's arm around Michelle's shoulders. United front. That could be good or bad. Derek spoke first. "We've talked, and we want to apologize." I waited. "I've been an asshole," he continued, and the bluntness surprised me. "I let Michelle's relationship with you become transactional. I saw you as a resource, not a person, and that's not okay." Michelle took over, voice trembling. "I forgot, Mom. I forgot everything you did for me, everything you sacrificed. I got so caught up in my own life, my own needs, that I stopped seeing you, really seeing you." "And the house?" I asked. "We want to stay," Michelle said quickly. "But we want to do it right. The rent, the split bills, the chores, all of it. We agree. And yes, therapy, please, yes." Something in my chest loosened. Not forgiveness yet, but possibility. "There are conditions," I said, "beyond what I already mentioned." They nodded. "First, respect, real respect. That means asking my opinion, listening to my answers. treating me like an equal member of this household, not a guest or a servant. Yes, Michelle whispered. Second, honesty. No more secrets. No more talking about me like I'm not here. If you have a problem with something I do, you tell me directly. Agreed, Derek said. Third, and this is important, you accept that I'm a whole person. I have my own life, my own interests, my own friends. I'm not just your mother, Michelle. I'm Margaret. I'm a woman who owns businesses and has investments and has dreams that don't involve you. Can you accept that? Michelle's face crumpled. I never saw it. God, Mom, I never saw you at all, did I? You were just... Mom, like that's all you were? I let that happen, I admitted. I made myself small. I thought humility was virtue. But there's a difference between being humble and being invisible. James stood. I'll draw up the rental agreement. You'll all sign it, and I'd suggest family therapy starts within the week. The sooner you begin, the better. We walked him to the door. He shook hands with Derek, hugged Michelle, and squeezed my shoulder. Call me if you need anything, he said quietly. Anytime. After he left, the three of us stood in the living room. The same room that had witnessed 2 years of gradual erosion, now the site of something new. Maybe reconstruction. I'll make coffee, Michelle said. We should talk more, about everything. As she went to the kitchen, Derek lingered. Margaret, Mrs. Chen, I need to say something. I waited. I grew up without much. My dad left when I was 5. My mom worked 3 jobs. So when I finally had something good, this house, this life, I got protective, possessive. I saw you as a threat to that security. I was never a threat, Derek. I know that now, but I didn't then. And instead of dealing with my own insecurity, I let it poison how I treated you. I'm sorry. That's inadequate, but it's true. Inadequate, I agreed. But it's a start. He smiled weakly. I'll do better. We'll do better. Michelle returned with 3 mugs. We sat, and for the first time in 2 years, we talked. Really talked. About Thomas, about the money, about the sacrifices and the resentments and the love that had gotten twisted up in fear and obligation. It wasn't fixed. Not even close. But it was honest. And honesty, I was learning, was the first step toward anything real. The next week moved slowly, each day a careful navigation of new territory. James sent over the rental agreement, a formal document that made everything painfully official. Derek's name, Michelle's name. My name as landlord. $3,000 monthly, due on the 1st. Security deposit. Terms of termination. All the legal language that transformed our family relationship into something with rules and boundaries. Michelle cried when she signed it. It feels so cold, she whispered, pen trembling over her signature line. It's protection, I said gently, for all of us, so we know what to expect from each other. Derek signed without comment, jaw tight. He'd spent the last 3 days calling banks, restructuring payments, selling his BMW for something more modest. The designer clothes hanging in his closet suddenly represented money he desperately needed. Reality, as they say, had sharp teeth. I made my own changes too. I took back the master bedroom. Mom, you don't have to, Michelle had protested when I announced it. We can manage. I'm not asking permission, honey. I'm telling you. That was my room with your father. I gave it up to make you comfortable. Now I'm taking it back. They moved their things in one long, silent afternoon. I helped carry boxes, and the symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. The master bedroom, with its attached bathroom and walk-in closet, and windows overlooking the garden Thomas had planted, became mine again. That first night, sleeping in the bed I'd shared with Thomas, I cried. Not from sadness, From something more complicated. Relief mixed with grief, victory mixed with exhaustion. I'd won, but winning felt heavier than I'd expected. Dr. Sandra Moss, the therapist James recommended, had an office in a converted Victorian house downtown. Soft lighting, comfortable chairs, and a box of tissues within easy reach. Michelle and I sat on opposite ends of a sage green couch, a distance that felt symbolic. "Tell me why you're here," Dr. Moss said, looking at both of us. We both started talking at once, then stopped. I gestured for Michelle to go first. "I hurt my mother," Michelle said, fresh tears starting. "I took her for granted. I forgot everything she did for me. And when she set boundaries, I realized I'd been treating her like furniture. Something useful but not important." Dr. Moss made notes. "And you, Margaret?" "I let it happen," I said. "I made myself small to keep the peace. I thought sacrifice without recognition was noble. I thought if I just kept giving, eventually I'd earn real love. But that's not how it works." "No," Dr. Moss agreed. "It's not." Over the next hour, we unpacked 2 years of small cruelties. The times Michelle had dismissed my opinions. The times I'd bitten my tongue instead of speaking up. The gradual erosion of respect that neither of us had noticed until it was too late. "Here's what I'm hearing," Dr. Moss said near the end. "Michelle, you stopped seeing your mother as a full person. You reduced her to a role. And Margaret, you allowed that to happen because you feared that setting boundaries would mean losing your daughter entirely." We both nodded. The work ahead is about re-establishing Michelle's ability to see her mother as complete, complex, and deserving of respect. And Margaret's work is learning that love without boundaries isn't love, it's self-erasure. In the car afterward, Michelle was quiet for a long time. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Always." "When you were young, did Grandma Rose treat you the way I treated you?" The question surprised me. "Yes. Actually, she did. My mother was brilliant and cold. She saw me as an extension of her, not as my own person. When I married your father against her wishes, she didn't speak to me for 3 years. I didn't know that. There's a lot you don't know, Michelle. I didn't want to burden you with my past. But maybe that was a mistake. Maybe if you'd known how I struggled to be my own person, you'd have understood that I needed to be more than just your mother. I want to know now," she said quietly. "All of it. Who you were before me, who you are now, everything." "So," I told her. As we drove through the city, I talked about growing up in a tiny apartment in Chinatown, about learning to sew from my mother, about meeting Thomas at a church dance when I was 19, about the pregnancy scare at 20 that made us elope, about the years of struggling, saving, working 3 jobs while Thomas went to night school, about the little investments he made. $200 here, $500 there, about how proud he was when those investments started paying off, about his heart attack, sudden and brutal, leaving me alone with a teenage daughter and a secret fortune I didn't know how to touch. "He made me promise not to tell you," I said. "Not because he didn't trust you. Because he wanted you to build your own foundation first. To know your own strength before money complicated things." "Did I?" Michelle asked. "Did I build a foundation?" "You got your degree. You started your career. You married someone you love. Yes, you built something. It needs some structural work now." She laughed wetly. "That's one way to put it." We pulled into the driveway. Derek's sensible Toyota was there instead of the BMW. Small changes, visible adjustments. "Mom?" Michelle said as I turned off the engine. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For setting boundaries instead of just leaving. For believing I could be better." I took her hand. You're my daughter. I'll always believe you can be better. I just needed you to believe I could be more than your mother. We went inside together. Derek was cooking, actually cooking, not ordering takeout. Spaghetti with marinara from scratch, following a recipe on his phone with intense concentration. I thought I'd try, he said, looking embarrassed. It's probably terrible. It was slightly overcooked and oversalted, but we ate it together at the table, all three of us, and it tasted like effort, like trying, like the beginning of something that might eventually be real. Over the next weeks, the house transformed in tiny, almost invisible ways. A chore chart appeared on the refrigerator, color-coded and fair. Derek took out the trash on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Michelle vacuumed on Saturdays. I cleaned the kitchen on Mondays and Wednesdays. We rotated cooking duties. The first time Michelle cooked dinner, grilled chicken and roasted vegetables, she burned the chicken and undercooked the vegetables. But she'd tried. She'd thought about me eating with her, not just me serving her. It's perfect, I said, and meant it. Derek started asking my advice on things, small things at first. Which insurance company had better rates? Did I think his business idea had merit? What did I know about investing? That last question opened a door. One evening, after Michelle had gone to bed, Derek and I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I showed him the basics. How compound interest worked. How to read a stock chart. How Thomas had started with small amounts and been patient. I thought you had to be rich to invest, Derek said, staring at the screen. Thomas and I started with $200, I told him. The secret isn't how much you have, it's consistency and time. Will you teach me? He asked. Really teach me, not just the basics? Yes, I said. But on one condition. You have to promise me you'll teach your children someday. Financial literacy is a gift. Pass it forward. He nodded solemnly. Deal. Michelle got a promotion at work, something she'd been working toward for a year. When she came home with the news, she didn't run to Derek first. She came to my room where I was reading. Mom, I got it. The senior position. 15% raise. I stood up and hugged her. I'm so proud of you. She held on longer than necessary. I wanted you to know first, because you're the one who taught me that hard work matters, that you don't give up just because things are hard. When did I teach you that? Every day of my childhood. I just forgot to remember. We went out to celebrate, the three of us. A nice restaurant, nothing too fancy, but somewhere that required reservations. Derek insisted on paying, even though it clearly stretched his budget. I want to, he said. Please let me do this. So I let him. Sometimes accepting is its own form of giving. Dr. Moss sessions continued. Some weeks they were hard, ripping open wounds that hadn't fully healed. Michelle talking about feeling like she could never measure up to everything I'd sacrificed. Me talking about feeling invisible, erased, reduced to a function instead of a person. The pattern you're describing is common? Dr. Moss said. Parents, especially mothers, often erase themselves for their children. Then they're shocked when those children can't see them as whole people. You can't disappear for 20 years and expect to be suddenly visible. So it's my fault? I asked, feeling defensive. It's not about fault. It's about pattern. You taught Michelle, inadvertently, that your needs didn't matter, that your identity was mother and nothing else. She learned that lesson well. Now you're both unlearning it. That takes time. Michelle reached for my hand during that session. I let her take it. In October, I did something I hadn't done in years. I invited my friend Susan over for lunch. Susan, whom I'd known since high school, who'd been at my wedding, who'd held me when Thomas died. Susan, whom I'd gradually lost touch with because Michelle and Derek's schedule had become my schedule. "Margaret," Susan said when she arrived, looking around the house. "This is beautiful. Why haven't you invited me before?" "I didn't think I could," I admitted. I didn't feel like it was my home to invite people into. And now I remember it is my home, legally and in every other way that matters. We had lunch on the patio, drinking iced tea and catching up on 2 years of missed conversations. Susan was thriving. She'd started a consulting business, was dating someone new, had just booked a trip to Italy. "You should come with me," she said suddenly. "To Italy, my treat." "Oh, I couldn't." "Why not? You have the money, you have the time. What's stopping you?" I thought about it. What was stopping me? Not Michelle. She was stable now, working, building her life. Not the house. Derek and Michelle paid rent and could handle a month without me. Not the money. I had more than enough. "Nothing," I said slowly. "Nothing's stopping me." "Then come. We leave in December. Just the two of us. 2 old ladies taking Rome by storm." I laughed. "We're not that old." "Damn right we're not." When I told Michelle about the trip, I expected resistance. Some version of, "Mom, you can't just leave." Instead, she smiled. "That's wonderful. You should go. Do you need help planning? I'm good at finding deals on flights." "You're not upset?" "Why would I be upset? Mom, you have your own life. That's good. That's how it should be." Progress. Slow, imperfect, but real. November brought Thanksgiving. Traditionally, we'd have gone to Derek's mother's house in Connecticut. This year, Derek suggested we host. "If that's okay," he added quickly. I should have asked first. "It's your house." "It's our house," I corrected gently. "And yes, we can host. But I want help. Real help. Not me cooking while everyone watches football." So, we planned it together. Michelle handled the turkey and stuffing. Derek made his grandmother's sweet potato casserole. I made pies, pumpkin and apple, and taught them both how I crimped the edges the way my mother had taught me. Derek's mother, Patricia, arrived with her signature green bean casserole and a cautious expression. She'd heard about the changes, the rental agreement, the therapy. She pulled me aside while Derek was carving the turkey. "I need to apologize," Patricia said quietly. I knew Derek was taking advantage. I should have said something. I should have stood up for you. "Why didn't you?" "Because I was relieved someone else was taking care of him. After his father left, I raised him alone. I was so tired. And when Michelle came along, I thought, finally, someone else to carry the weight. I let you become invisible because it was convenient." The honesty stunned me. "Thank you for saying that. I want to do better. With you. With Derek. With all of it." We hugged, and it felt like something settling into place. Dinner was chaotic and imperfect. The turkey was slightly dry. Derek's casserole was too sweet. But we laughed. We talked. We told stories about Thomas that made Michelle cry and smile at the same time. "Tell me more about Dad," she said. "I want to know everything." So, I did. His terrible jokes, his love of crossword puzzles, the way he sang off key in the shower, his dream of retiring to a small town and opening a bookstore, the investments that were his way of making sure I'd be okay without him. "He sounds wonderful," Derek said. "He was," I replied. "Not perfect, but wonderful." After everyone left, after the dishes were done and the leftovers stored, I stood in the kitchen alone. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel empty. It felt full of new memories, full of honest conversations, full of possibility. Michelle came down in her pajamas, getting water. "Mom," she said sleepily. Today was really nice. Thank you for sharing Dad with us. Thank you for wanting to hear about him. She kissed my cheek and went back upstairs. And I stood there in my kitchen, in my house, in my life, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt whole. December arrived with early snow and that particular quiet that comes when a year is ending. The Italy trip with Susan was booked for mid-month. I'd be gone for 2 weeks. Rome, Florence, Venice, everything I'd dreamed about but never thought I'd see. You'll freeze, Michelle fussed, helping me pack. Italian winter is cold. Here, take my good wool coat. I can't take your good coat. Mom, you bought me that coat. Consider it a loan. Bring it back. The ease between us still felt new, fragile, like something that needed careful handling. But it was there, real and growing. The night before my flight, Derek made a special dinner. Properly cooked this time, salmon with herbs, roasted asparagus, rice pilaf. We ate by candlelight, the 3 of us. This feels like a celebration, I said. It is, Michelle replied. You're going to Italy. You're doing something just for you. That's worth celebrating. Derek cleared his throat. Actually, we have something else to celebrate. Or at least, something to tell you. They looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them. We're pregnant, Michelle said, eyes shining. 8 weeks. We wanted to wait until you were back to tell you, but it didn't feel right, you leaving without knowing. My heart stopped. A grandchild. Thomas's grandchild. Oh, I breathed. Oh, Michelle. We're terrified, she admitted. We don't know what we're doing. Derek's still building his career back up. We're living in someone else's house. I mean, we're renting from you, which is weird. It's not weird, I said firmly. And you're going to be wonderful parents. How do you know? Because you're learning. You're going to therapy. You're working on yourselves. You're asking for help instead of pretending you have all the answers. That's how I know. Derek reached across the table. Margaret, Mom, would you, when the baby comes, would you want to be involved? Really involved? Not as a babysitter, but as a grandmother? Of course, I whispered. Why would you think I wouldn't? Because of how we treated you, Michelle said. We wouldn't blame you for wanting distance. Setting boundaries doesn't mean I stopped loving you, I told them. It means I finally loved myself enough too. There's room for both. We talked late into the night, about names, they didn't know the sex yet, about converting the small study into a nursery, about how scared they were, about how excited. What was it like? Michelle asked. When you were pregnant with me? Terrifying, exhilarating. Your father couldn't stop smiling. He told everyone we met, the cashier at the grocery store, the mailman, complete strangers. Really? Really, he was so proud, so ready to be a dad. Do you think he'd be proud now? Michelle asked quietly. Of me? Of how I've changed. I thought about Thomas, about the promise I'd kept, about whether he'd approve of how things had unfolded. Yes, I said finally. He'd be proud that you learned, that you didn't stay stubborn, that you're willing to do the work of being better. That's all he ever wanted for you. The next morning, Susan picked me up at 5 a.m. for the airport. Michelle and Derek stood on the porch, waving as we pulled away. In my purse, I carried a photo of Thomas, one of Michelle as a baby, and a new one of all 3 of us from Thanksgiving. Italy was everything I'd imagined and nothing I'd expected. The art, the food, the history washing over me in waves. Susan and I walked until our feet ached, ate until we were stuffed, laughed until we cried. You look different, Susan said one evening over wine in a piazza in Florence. Lighter. I feel lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy for years and finally put it down. Burdens or people? Both? Neither. I don't know. I was carrying the weight of being invisible, of erasing myself. That's gone now. Good. You deserve to take up space, Margaret. You always did. In Rome, I stood in the Sistine Chapel, neck craned back, staring at Michelangelo's ceiling. All that beauty, all that effort, all that reaching towards something divine. I thought about the years of Thomas working night shifts so I could go to school, of me sewing until my fingers bled so Michelle could have nice clothes, of all the small sacrifices that added up to a life. Was it worth it? I whispered to the ceiling, to God, to Thomas, to myself. Yes, I heard in my heart. Yes, it was, because the struggle had given me strength. The sacrifice had taught me love. The invisibility had made me appreciate being seen. Every hard moment had built toward this one, standing in Rome, whole and free. I video called Michelle from the hotel that night. "How's Italy?" she asked, propping her phone up so I could see Derek too. "Magical. How are you feeling?" "Nauseous, but happy. Doctor says everything looks good." She paused. "Mom, I've been thinking, when you get back, I want to show you something. Something I've been working on." "What is it?" "A surprise. A good one, I promise." When I returned 2 weeks later, Michelle and Derek picked me up at the airport. Michelle looked different. There was color in her cheeks, a glow that wasn't just pregnancy. "Come on," she said, grabbing my suitcase. "We have to show you something before you get settled." They drove to a neighborhood I didn't recognize. Older homes, tree-lined streets, for sale signs on a few lawns. We stopped in front of a charming 2-story house, white with blue shutters, a porch swing, a yard big enough for a garden. "What are we doing here?" I asked. Derek grinned. "We bought it. Well, we're buying it. The offer was accepted yesterday." "But the money—" "I got a better job," Derek said. "The investment strategies you taught me, I implemented them at work. My boss was impressed. Big promotion. We can afford this now." "And," Michelle added, "we want to do this right. We're moving out, giving you your whole house back. No more weirdness about rent or being your landlord, just family who lives nearby." I stared at the house, at their excited faces. "You don't have to do this," I said. "We want to," Michelle replied. "We need to. We need to build our own family in our own space, and we need to let you be more than just our safety net." I started crying. Happy tears this time. "Besides," Derek said, "we'll need you close by, for babysitting." "I told you!" Michelle laughed. "Not babysitting, grandmothering, big difference." We sat on the porch swing of their future home, the 3 of us squeezed together, talking about paint colors and nurseries and new beginnings. "Mom," Michelle said quietly, "thank you." "For what?" "For fighting for yourself. For teaching me that love doesn't mean disappearing. For giving me a chance to see you. Really see you." "Thank you for looking," I replied. 6 months later, I stood in a hospital room holding my granddaughter. Lily Rose Chen Preston, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. Michelle was exhausted but radiant. Derek couldn't stop taking photos. And me? I looked at that tiny face and saw Thomas. Saw myself. Saw generations of strength and sacrifice and love. "She's beautiful," I whispered. "Want to hold her, Grandma?" the nurse asked. Grandma, the title I'd feared I'd lost forever. Now it felt new, earned, real. I held Lily carefully, supporting her head the way I'd learned with Michelle decades ago. She opened her eyes, unfocused but searching, and I felt something shift in my chest. Another chance. Another generation. Another opportunity to love without losing myself. I promise, I whispered to her. I promise to teach you that you can be both. Strong and kind. Generous and self-protecting. Loving and whole. You don't have to choose. You don't have to disappear. Michelle reached for my hand. Thank you, Mom, for everything, for not giving up, for showing me what real strength looks like. You showed me too, I replied. You showed me that people can change, that it's never too late to do better. Derek cleared his throat. Mrs. Chen, Margaret, Mom, we have something else to tell you. Michelle smiled. We talked to a lawyer about the house, your house. We want to buy you out, but we want to do it fairly. Pay you what it's actually worth, not what we can guilt you into accepting. You don't have to. We want to, Derek said. We want everything to be clear, legal, fair. No more confusion about who owns what or who owes whom. All right, I said. We'll have James draw up the papers. There's one condition, though, Michelle added. You have to promise to visit, a lot. This little girl needs her grandmother. I looked at Lily, at Michelle, at Derek, at the family we'd almost broken but had somehow stitched back together. I promise, I said, and I meant it. 1 year later, I sat in my living room, my house, my space, my life, with Susan on one side and Patricia on the other. We were planning another trip, this time to Greece, the 3 of us. Thelma and Louise and Margaret, Susan joked. Watch out, world. My phone buzzed. A video from Michelle. Lily taking her first steps, wobbling toward the camera, Michelle cheering in the background. I watched it 3 times, smiling until my cheeks hurt. Another message. Mom, can you come for dinner Sunday? Lily keeps asking for Grandma. I typed back, I'll be there. Should I bring dessert? Only if you teach me your pie recipe. I want to make it for Lily someday. Recipes, stories, strength passed from generation to generation, not through money or sacrifice, but through presence, through being seen and seeing others, through boundaries that protect instead of walls that isolate. I looked around my home. Photos of Thomas, of Michelle's wedding, of Lily's first days, of my trip to Italy, of all the pieces of my life finally fitting together in ways that made sense. The doorbell rang. James Sterling, right on time for our quarterly financial review. Margaret, he said, hugging me. You look happy. I am, I replied. For the first time in a very long time, I'm exactly where I should be. Where's that? Here, in my own life, not on the margins of someone else's. He smiled. Thomas would be proud. I know, I said. I finally am too. And that, more than any amount of money, more than any property or investment or hidden truth, was worth everything. I was proud of myself, not for what I'd sacrificed, not for how much I'd endured, but for what I'd claimed, the space I'd taken up, the boundaries I'd drawn, the love I'd demanded instead of just given. I was proud of the woman who'd fought to be seen, and in the end, that made all the difference.